where we've brought you first is to what we call Skull Hill. In a group this size, there are going to be one or two people who simply will not see it. It's one of those features. Let me try to help everyone else. If you look over there into the cliff top, and you guys are going to have to just move over to the side so that people can. You can see two small caves there. Can you see them?
Yeah.
And there's like the bridge of a nose in the rock sticking out between them. Have you got it?
Yeah.
Now, I can tell you in about 3.5 hours, the sun is going to have moved over, right over here. It's going to be high in the sky, shining directly on that white rock face. And the white rock here in Jerusalem with the sun on it is brilliant white. But then those two caves become really dark in the shadow. A little bit like, excuse me, Matt, can I just show them this? On this, you see what I mean?
Yeah.
And you can't see the back of the cave. And then he looks like he's wearing a pair of sunglasses. And it just looks like a skull face over there with the sun on it. So, just at this time of the morning, it takes a little bit of imagination, but, you know, I can promise you that looks like a skull around midday, 12:30. And of course, we know from the Gospels that the place where Jesus was crucified, in Aramaic, Golgotha, in Latin it was Calvary, but translated, both of those words mean dead man's head, or place of the skull. Now there's another thing that we know about the place where Jesus was crucified. We know it was outside the old city of Jerusalem. You know the Romans never ever crucified people inside the city. And if you look just behind you, those of you on the back row there, you can see those walls with the battlements on. Those are the northern walls of the old city of Jerusalem. This site is just outside. The third thing we know from the Bible about the place comes from the letter to the Hebrews. In chapter 13, verse 12, it says, he died outside a city gate. Unfortunately, the writer didn't tell us which gate. He'd have only said we would have known the exact spot, but he didn't. And you're probably already aware there are lots of gates around the city, aren't there? Yeah, the way those legs came up these steps, I think we must have been through every one of them about 20 times already. Not all of these gates were here 2,000 years ago. Herod's Gate, just down the way, was not. New Gate, up the way, was not. Just around the corner of that building there on the right-hand side is a very large gate called the Master's Gate. And importantly, we know from the excavations beneath it that there was a gate right there at the time of Jesus. So just putting those three things together, the gate, the walls, and the place of the skull, and I think this site starts to seem interesting, at the very least. And really that's all I can tell you about it. We're not making any claims for this place. Throughout the tour, I'm just going to be pointing some facts out to you, that's all. However, I am pretty much aware that every painting you folks will have seen of the crucifixion will indeed have been a hill with 3 crosses on the top. Would that be true? Mm-hmm. Yeah. On a hill far away stood an old rugged cross, didn't it? No. Okay. There is no reference anywhere in any of the 4 Gospels to a hill. Check. The Romans never ever crucified people on the tops of hills. It is merely an artist's impression. In fact, we know from a Roman historian, his name was Quintilian. He wrote, we always crucify immediately alongside the busiest of thoroughfares. He said the whole point of crucifixion is that the people passing by witnesses at close hand are put in fear of us and made to obey us. And now, the nearest busy road to here actually runs right along the front of the city's walls there. And 2,000 years ago, that was the old main Jerusalem to Jericho road. If that sounds at all familiar to you. So if indeed Jesus died here, for certain it was not on top of that hill. It would have been right alongside the road over there. Now the crosses would have been on this side of the road, away from the city walls, so as not to defile the holy city. But it does mean, of course, that as people were walking past there, and they're staring at these 3 men hung on their cross, right behind them in the background would be Skull Hill, the place of execution known as the Skull. Of course, the bus station wasn't here to block their view. This was a disused stone 2,000 years ago. The other false impression we get from paintings of the crucifixion are of these big tall crosses. Everyone I've seen, they're 15, 20 feet high. They'd have had to all